$10 million, a wall of lies and secrets, and one device to test it all. This is the story of Theranos, a multi-billion-dollar company that publicly claimed to be able to perform hundreds of medical tests with only a few drops of blood. Now this might sound revolutionary, and it was at the time, appealing to the biggest investors, reporters, and politicians across the country. But within this movie-like scenario, there was one major secret. Rather than using their signature Edison testing device, they used the traditional testing methods, diluting their blood sample to 1,000 times more, resulting in errors of over 40%, 4 times higher than the medically accepted error threshold. This was unknown to patients, to doctors, and to regular consumers. And so all this caused major chaos. And so when asked about their erroneous testing methods, they would simply respond that the methods we use are trade secrets and cannot be revealed to the public. And so rather than subscribing to the conventional scientific process, they chose to hide behind a wall of NDAs, lawyers, and government lobbying as a result of not actually trying to find the truth, but rather as a way to make money. And so I believe that the truth remains the most powerful way to communicate, to discuss, and to share our ideas. And if we, in reality, cannot embrace the truth, we can see it as nothing more than trivial. And so in my research, I've been doing just that. I've been trying to find a new way to perform blood diagnostics. Obviously, it comes with the skepticism after the Theranos scandal, and along the way, had many problems. But the question I've had most important in my research is, how can we really define the truth? Right? With different viewpoints, with different ideas from different people, it's hard to really pinpoint what the truth actually is. So while it might seem objective, it's a little bit harder than that. So I found that Eugenia Chang's framework for defining the truth to be the most complete. Essentially, she splits it up into a cycle with 3 main parts. First, you have the believed truth, or what you believe. Then, your proved truth, or what knowledge you already have. And then finally, your moral truth, or the understanding that comes with everything. And so these 3 work together to help us share information and help us convey our statements to one another. And that's kind of how the scientific process works. So it kind of works in the same way as I just described. Suppose I wanted to share something like this, right? The process essentially goes like this. I have some statement that's in my realm of belief truth, right? I have the knowledge and the understanding that goes with it. So I can combine those to make an explanation, a reason, and I give that to you in the form of a proof. Now, either you accept your proof wholeheartedly and it goes into your realm of belief truth, or you ask questions. Question my understanding and my knowledge. Then we come to a coincidental belief truth where we both agree upon our understanding. And that's how information is passed from one to another, and so on and so forth. The cycle continues. And so that's really the basis for the scientific process and the peer review process as a whole. But what we're starting to see in science today, is that with a lot of papers and publications, we're starting to see a critical replication crisis, where a lot of papers are unreproducible, or the papers that show failed reproductions aren't able to be published. And so a study by this journal, Science Advances, actually found that experts were able to accurately predict whether or not a paper was going to be reproducible or not. So now you might be thinking, well, if that's really true, and if experts can actually determine that, why are they allowing such papers to pass through the publication process? Why are we just simply letting papers that we know can't be verified be published willy-nilly? And so it all comes down to one simple thing. This is the same thing we saw with Theranos. The reason that Theranos was able to get so big was because of the interest. With journals, with publications, with company, as long as you have an eye-catching title, you get that interest. And that's what funds projects, that's what funds developments. So take this news article, for example, Let Us Pray. It might not be the most accurate title, Let Us Pray, what does that really even mean? But it draws our attention as the reader. We want to know more about what this actually means and what they're going to be talking about, right? But in science, this has more negative consequences, especially more severe ones. If you are presenting an article that has an eye-catching title but no substantial results and no substantial backing, that just means you are throwing out information into the wild with no real proof. And with science, where everything is based on this sort of truth, it's really important because everything builds on one another. So if you set improper foundations, the things to come will also be improper. And so oftentimes scientists will need to publish papers because of pressures from grants, from their universities, or from other peers. And so that's what leads to incorrect information being published in this critical replication crisis. Another problem we're starting to see is that people that have published material regarding a failed replication study aren't able to produce the full material failed. So what I mean by that is, let's say some researcher did an experiment and I want to publish that I wasn't able to replicate the experiment. Well, then oftentimes editors would ask the failed replication study to downplay their results so that the original paper would preserve that interest. And so that's a problem we're seeing today. With only 13% of failed replication studies being able to be published, and over 87% of people not being able to replicate a certain study, it's becoming a very big problem. And so this is kind of also what we saw with Theranos, with people not being able to reproduce and replicate because they weren't allowing people to. So this hinders the truth, and so that's why we have to really ask, well, is this the truth we're seeing, or is this some other thing? And so that's what I'm really here to talk about. With this peer review process, we need to follow this systematic guideline of submitting an article, making sure it's correct, getting opinions from others. And so fortunately, there is hope though. With this critical replication crisis, there is growing attention. So we are, as a scientific community, coming together to identify and address this problem. And so I truly believe that without truth, we can't really share information. And without really wanting to express the truth, then it all just becomes simply trivial. And so in my research, I've tried to do just that. Over the years, working with my team, we've tried to address the problem of blood diagnostics. It's been hard. We definitely have the skepticism and doubt that's followed. But with every single interaction with different professors, different scientists, such as the gentleman in the middle, we've been able to improve our methodology just a little bit more. And so ultimately, while I do think the truth can be trivial, it becomes a little less trivial when we work together. Thank you.